Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Pony, and today we're going right back into Lake of Voices. So without further ado, let's hop in. Alright, let's
It
go.
sounded like he just went forward, and then I couldn't hear him anymore.
That will work. Lou?
I look around for him, realizing he's not with me any longer. At some point I let go of his arm. He's standing to the side, gaze transfixed on the darkness. He seems completely unaware of everything that's happened. The fire, the Nixie, the death. I step forward and yank him back to my side.
What are you doing?
He flinches at the unexpected content and looks attentively at me, but he doesn't offer an explanation.
I'm sorry.
That's all he ever says. I let go.
Both of you stay close. We are not going to separate again.
We keep down the path, the flames still gradually gnawing on the planks behind us. The guide doesn't turn up, nor do any signs of him. We push on. We will not stop moving. Then we do. The bridge comes to a dead end of rotted outboards collapsed into the lake. For a moment, our breathing stops at once. If this was the way that led to the island, then I flip back to face the others, my expression unaffected. I'm not going to allow panic to sap this group of judgment.
Let's look for another branch.
I resolutely begin retracing our path. The others follow without protest. Our resignation is silent. We except for our footfalls and the snapping of soggy wood attempting to burn, we frequently have to step over smoldering sections trying to come alight. At one point, we even have to walk on the one at a time, sideways, to avoid widely flickering small fire billowing our black smoke. Just as my spirits begin to dim, we come across a different direction to take. Amongst the forks, there are only two that aren't collapsed, or too consumed by fire to risk
We're
falls.
lost.
Her voice is scarcely more than a whisper. I barely make it out over the sound of the cracking flames and splintering wood. Lou's gaze flickers down either path. There's a palpable sense of anxiety coming from him.
I don't know. I don't know which way.
It's all right.
But it's not alright. We have to have something to go off. Anything at all. A cold sweat trickles its way down my back. Before anyone tries to randomly choose, noise catches my attention. I hastily address the
Did you
group.
hear that?
It sounded like a whistle.
Yes.
It came from the right.
Lou and I trade looks. This could be the sign we need. But whatever it
Do
is,
those monsters know how to whistle?
I would assume not, but
We should go right, I think. To where the sound came from.
I'm a little surprised Lou is offering his own opinion. It's good to hear. However, I take a deep breath.
I agree. There's more of a chance the whistle was a sign for good over ill.
Our course decided, we move as one down the right path, no longer hesitating. Let's follow the bridge down. There's no sign of end. There's no need to debate between directions again. We start to outpace the fire and the danger thankfully fading. The night continues to lighten regardless. I glance at the sky and realize what's happening. The sun is rising. The bridge will sink into the water, with darkness disappearing and take us with them. We'll be lost. It suddenly seems pointless. We don't even know whether we've gone the right way, and we haven't caught up to the guide. We can't outswim the Nixie, and we can't outrun the dawn. We're going to run out of time. Yet we keep moving forward. And finally, our perseverance is rewarded. The silhouette of an island rises in the distance. The island grows rapidly larger, and soon the scent of the earth and trees reach us. In spite of all the horrors of night, a dock emerges from the fog before us, welcoming us to its safety. We reach the shore. I don't believe it until I've stepped off the wood and my boots sink into the sand. I walk further inland like a corpse. My sole instinct is to flee from the waterline. My hazy eyes single in on something ahead. The guide stands on an outcropping in the distance, watching like a sentinel. He doesn't even come to greet us. I stare at him for a moment, not even able to feel alarmed at my own lack of feeling about the situation. He uses his staff to gesture to the forest behind him before disappearing between the trees. I can only assume he must be asking me to follow. The guide takes us further inland, more towards the center. There's a view of the coastline from here, but we're also partially obscured by trees.
It's time to sleep.
No one has the energy to argue with him at the moment. I find a place comfortable as one could in a location like this. Next, one of the trees further out lay down, trying to block out my thoughts. For once, exhaustion is my ally, and I slip off into sleep. My eyes slowly blink open, readjusting to the brightness of what little there is. The sun is obscured by a thick layer of fog, making it impossible to estimate the time of day. I prop up my elbows to push myself up. The ground is hard and rocky, but that isn't the only reason I'm eager to get on my feet. I check my surroundings. The harsh, craggy earth of the island is interlaced with twisting vines and gnarling branches. Beside me, Margaret and Lou are still fast asleep. The guide, however, is nowhere to be seen. I realize I don't recall seeing him laid down with everybody. It's likely he left us hours ago. There's a creepy silence here. I can't help but shudder at the hollow, aching feeling inside of me. It refuses to relent. I shift my weight back and forth, unsure of what to do with myself. Memories of last night's harrowing journey flicker through my mind. I notice the others begin to stir. Margaret accidentally knocks Lou as she gets up, awakening him as well. My mouth opens and I shut after a moment of fumbling on my words. Finally
Hello.
escapes.
Hello to you.
Margaret greets me as she rubs her eyes. It seems to be due to troubling adjustment to not having her glasses rather than grogginess behind her. Lou remains on the ground.
We should eat something soon. I don't trust what is on this island, so I'll have to split my supplies with Lou.
I admit, for a trip of this length, I could only manage to carry the minimum, so I don't have much to share. However, you shouldn't be the only one who gives something up.
Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm not hungry.
Lou's back is turned against us. He still hasn't gotten up out of the
You
dirt.
won't make it very far if you don't have something to eat.
Lou buries his head deeper into his knees as he curls into a tighter ball.
No thanks.
I wonder when the last time he ate even was. Considering where we found him, he could have been out over Sinlos for more than a day. Yet, he has nothing with him.
I'm concerned about that as well. But I know it can be difficult to force yourself to eat after something traumatic, and I'm afraid I'm not very skilled at encouraging others.
There's a stinging sensation inside of me. That was not something I ever needed to do because he was there. Margaret and I both frown. A distinct rustle of leaves around catches my attention. The guide appears emerging from the thicket. Margaret seems a little uncomfortable at his return. Lou doesn't notice. The guide nears us and begins to speak.
The Nixie will not tread on land in daylight. However, being near the shoreline is still dangerous. If you leave the center of the island, remain cautious. Before the sun sets, I will be in this area. It would be wise to meet me here before nightfall.
And just what needs to be done over in those woods that cannot be done in the brush here with the rest of us?
Despite Margaret's pointed question, the guide considers his piece here finished. He turns around and returns to the forest area from which he came. Beside me, Margaret releases a sigh.
Are you all right?
No, I'm not. Nothing is all right. It will never get any better.
Margaret sucks in a breath as she starts to get emotional before it can spill out of her. She turns on her heels and walks off in the direction different than the guide's. I don't try to stop her. Lou meekly calls to me. I turn around to face him, though I don't speak. He's standing some distance away. He fidgets and glances over to the side before returning his gaze to my eyes. He gestures for me to come closer. Why are you gesturing me closer, Lou? I comply. He begins to whisper at me, but he fumbles with his words and I can't make out anything he says. I look at him inquisitively. He finally speaks up enough to be clear.
I'm sorry for what happened last night.
He speaks quickly and looks up at me, his eyes filled with sorrow. He shifts his focus
You
down.
would have been better off without me.
It's not your fault.
My words come out hollow and empty. I mean what I say, but I cannot find the energy to make it seem convincing.
It was closer to being my fault than anyone else's. I wasn't supposed to be here, and all I did was get in the way. The guide was right about me. I knew from the beginning that it would be like this too. I never should have stayed.
Finishing his thought, he sniffles as he turns away. Suddenly, I feel a strong surge of emotions rip through me. Everything is falling apart. I do not have the power to change this. Quietly, I speak. Lou, wait. Lou stops moving and he doesn't turn to face me. I hesitate as well, also unsure of how to proceed.
Would you be willing to speak with me?
He turns around to face me. His eyes are brimming with tears. He smiles slightly.
I could do that.
I find the will to smile lightly back at him. Lou walks closer to me, then pauses. After watching me for a moment, he turns his eyes to the ground, waiting for me to do something. I just stare at him, unsure. After a brief silence, I finally sigh.
Lou, can I ask you a difficult question?
He flinches.
I don't think I'm the person you want to ask difficult questions.
No one else can answer this one. It's about you.
Oh, in that case, I'm really not the kind of person to give good answers.
By his tone, it seems like he's trying to make light of the situation. But to me, it still just sounds sad.
I understand.
He squeezes his eyes shut and gives no reply, despite being clearly frustrated. It doesn't look like it's me he's upset with. He soon reopens his eyes, looking directly at me.
You can ask me anything. I'll try to answer. But I hope you have a lot of patience.
He smiles slightly.
Thank you.
So, what do you want to know?
Have you lost someone in the lake?
Lou stumbles back and steps from shock.
I'm sorry for prying, but when we found you, it seemed like you were apologizing to someone, and the way you've acted since makes me think that something is wrong. Something beyond even being out on Sinlos.
I give a sympathetic look. Why am I even asking him this question? Do I really want him to help? Or am I trying to forget what happened to us by talking about someone else's misfortune? Lou speaks. His voice is barely above a whisper.
I hate myself. I can't do anything.
You don't have to say anymore. I was wrong to ask you about it.
His brows are furrowed. He smiles in a self-deprecating way.
I'm sorry.
Lou laughs sharply at himself.
Don't be. I'm not worth the concern.
How can you say that? What have you done that was wrong in this moment? It was only my mistake.
You think that because you don't know.
I do not believe you.
Lou's eyes bore into me.
I'm not upset because I lost someone out here. I'm upset because I can't bring myself to lie about it.
What?
You gave me the perfect opportunity to cover up the pathetic truth of what actually happened. All I had to do was go along with your assumption. But when you're so direct, I can't keep my thoughts hidden. I'm too afraid of making a mistake and having the lie uncovered somehow.
He stares back at the ground and sighs.
Why do I have to be so terrible at this?
Bewilderment rings through my mind, one ear to the other. His words stir all sort of baffling, jumbled emotions in me that baffle it out of supremacy as I gawk. Lou is... I don't know. Without looking up, Lou shakes his head.
See? You shouldn't waste your sympathies on someone like me. You should have left me to die.
Like a shot, my anger flares up.
Pull yourself together. I didn't leave you behind before, and I'm not going to do so now. The best thing you can do to help is put those kinds of thoughts in the back of your mind.
Or what? I won't make it to the other side?
Lou laughs bitterly, his smile almost cruel.
If I thought joining you was a way to stay alive, I would have acted much differently. The only reason...
The only reason I came along is because I thought it might be nice to not die alone and forgotten. I hate it when I accidentally click the button when I don't mean to. My words sputter and die on my tongue. Lou continues his speech, ignoring my reaction.
The guide really didn't know what he was saying before. I asked him if I could go out on the bridges in the past. He told me not to. Said I couldn't handle it. I'm not sorry for ignoring the warning. This was something I had to do. This was my only chance to prove I'm not worthless, or to finally accept that I was once and for all. And we know what the truth is.
Stop.
I can no longer keep idly listening to him speak.
It doesn't have to be this way. You said yourself that it isn't over until it's completely over. There's still a possibility that...
No, there isn't.
My blood pounds in my veins. Instinctively, I place both my hands on his tightly wrapped wrapped upper arms.
I don't know what has happened to you, but if there's something you need to do, you can try again tomorrow night. You don't need to give up. You have value.
Luke closed his eyes again, smiles to himself. I maintain my grip on him, waiting for his response.
All right. I'll try to stay alive if you'll do something for me.
What is it?
Don't put yourself in danger for my sake anymore.
My fingers curl up hard around his thin arms, wishing I could argue further. I don't know what is going on in his head, and I might push him back into giving up. I don't have the luxury of trying to reach him a second time. I release him and take a step back.
Fine. I'll accept those terms.
Good. Now you might survive.
You need to survive too.
He laughs.
It goes without saying.
Lou smiles teasingly. His attitude is still difficult for me to grasp, but I attempt to smile in return. Thank you for
I
caring.
know you don't want anything to happen to anyone else. That is admirable.
Lou says nothing. However, I do feel my words reached him. I wish he would let me help him, but I cannot find the way to do so. I can only trust that he will do his best and take care of himself now. It's better than him planning to let it end. I say wearily, and yet somehow feel as though my resolve has been strengthened, at least for now.
I'm going to head out. I want to see how everything is on the island.
I'll make it easier by coming along. Then you won't ever have to check on me.
This time, I'm able to smile easily.
That would be good.
Happy to help.
He readily moves beside me, and together we move out. Lou and I head through the wooded part of the island. There isn't anything that could be called a path, but we managed to pick our way through the bush quite well. Through a thinner stand of trees, we briefly catch sight of the guide standing on one of the beaches. He seems fine, but even though I'm sure he turned his head towards me, he makes no show of acknowledging us. We move on and eventually find Margaret in a jagged clearing. Margaret begrudgingly lifts her head as we approach, enabling me to see that her face is damp and tear-stained, while her eyes are red and puffy. She's been crying. I shift between my feet uncomfortably.
Is something the matter?
Margaret glance moves to Lou. She laughs without humor.
Are you keeping an eye on the rest of us to make sure we don't get into trouble?
That's not it. Anything could happen, so it is good to stay alert even in daylight. Lou is here because he was also concerned.
Well, that's nice.
She speaks somewhat curtly, but at least she no longer seems as depressed.
Does this mean you don't have something to say?
Margaret shakes her head.
I'm happy to report that everything's in order on this front.
I'm glad.
Of course, I cannot fully believe that. Margaret isn't saying what's actually on her mind, but I have no way to truly reach her.
Is that everything?
I suppose it is.
My words come out slowly and hesitantly, as though she might change her mind if I bid my time. I'd want to do more, but I cannot think of what else I could do for her.
Then goodbye.
If you need anything, we will be close by.
Yes, thank you. I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Her response is sincere. It is enough to ease some of my worry. I smile, though weakly. We leave her be and head off on our own. Man,
It's good to know the others are well.
we have nothing to do with our time now. Even I can't ignore the wistful tone in my voice. Something is tugging at my heart, trying to tear a piece away. Lou seems uncomfortable with my lowering mood. He stares out into the woods rather than at me.
I think I'll go to the shore.
His words snap me back to hard reality.
What? Why?
I saw something earlier that I'd like to check out.
The shoreline is dangerous. Whatever you saw could not be worth the risk.
Wow. Alright. I forgot to save, but I can save now because it hasn't offered me any choices since. I want to make sure. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to hit like. That way I know you're enjoying the videos I'm making. Remember to subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back here to see what's next, and I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.